So this whole video is a video of firsts. It's the first time I've ever built a spear gun. It's the first time I ever used this camera to record something I've made. And this is the very first night I've repaired this little microphone to this little Osmo camera. And it took me long enough to learn how to edit with Premiere Pro to put this video together that I grew my first beard. So hopefully you enjoy the video. It's not perfect, but my spear gun came out really nice, even if I do say so myself. So I built this table a while back. It's got a steel top on it. Before I do any projects with wood, though, I wrap it in construction paper. This way I can have one table in my shop. I don't have to take up a lot of space in there, and I can use the top to draw out my plans, write my list down for anything I need. The paper protects the wood from the steel itself. You can say hi to Silverio running around back there. It also saves me space in my shop. You can see my table saws outside. I like to wheel it out before I do any work also. That way I have a lot more space and I can move around a lot easier. That's pretty much all I got done the first day. So when I came back the second day, you'll see my table's already been covered in stuff. Other people like to walk by. If it's a flat surface, stuff gets set on it. So there you go. There I'm cleaning up. Then I need to create a square mold to kind of hold this spear gun in when I tape it together, or when I glue it together, so it stays nice and square. But I didn't have a straight edge and I don't have a joiner on this piece of plastic I'm using. So I found that if I tape it to my 8-foot level, put some shims in the spots that aren't quite flat, and hold it out where it needs to be, I can run it through my table saw and get a super nice straight edge. I'm not sure if this is how you're supposed to do it, but I don't have a joiner and it works really well for me. So you'll see right here I don't have my vacuum hooked up. I'd cut a bunch of stuff earlier and also forgot to hook it up. So a little later in the video you're going to see the price I paid. That pipe that runs down there that collects up all the dust, well, it's completely packed full. It took me about 2 hours to clean that all out. I had to take it all apart. And I don't recommend it. So then I just take the forms that I just cut. I'm going to put them up on squares. This way I can be sure my spear gun's square when I glue it all together. I'm going to cut all that wood down into strips. They're basically a 1/2 inch by 2 inches by 60 inches long. I used a mix of teak and Iroko because they're supposed to be really good in water. I have no idea. Like I said, it's the first spear gun I've ever built. Here I am cleaning out my saw. Got a bunch of stuff down in there. So put your vacuum on, then you'll save you all this time. Also, I should have put my zero clearance insert in the saw. Would have kept a lot of stuff from falling down in there and saved me a lot of time cleaning up. So I'm going to end up milling this wood down. I'm going to cut it down into 2 inch by 1/2 inch by 60 inch long strips. Then I'll lay it on the table and try to camber it so that the natural warp of the wood is each piece is opposite, so that they're all bending the opposite way. Hopefully when it dries and they're all glued together, then they will keep each other straight. That's my goal anyway. So we'll get these all glued together. I'll put them in my forms there and clamp them down. You'll see I have a lot more strips on the table there, and later in the video you'll see that I've got enough for 4 spear guns. I had some friends that wanted them. We all decided to see how this one would turn out first before we started building the other ones. There you go. I'm going to put way more clamps on this thing than I should have. I'm going to knock the camera down. Then you can see my fat face. Look at all those chins I got right there. That's nice. Good angle. So we'll start cleaning some glue off. As soon as I get the super wet glue, try to get most of it off, I'll add some more clamps. Try to keep this thing as straight as we possibly can. The last thing I want is for it to warp. And it ended up working pretty well. When that thing came out, it was perfectly straight. I couldn't have asked for a better outcome, actually. I was so confident this was going to work out that I glued another set of pieces together. I put them in the forms with my... Oh, look at that. Oh, nice butt. That's not what you guys came here to see. I put them in there, so now I'm just trying to get them apart, get the glue off of them. A little bit of squeeze out, so it glued the 2 pieces together just a little bit. They came apart pretty easy. And once I get that glue cleaned off, we'll go to work on it and see if we can't turn this into an actual spear gun. So I got the two pieces, I got the glue cleaned off. I need to get the two pieces apart. They came apart a lot easier than I thought they would. I thought I had more glue stuck in there. Then for some reason I decided what I was going to do is clamp them all back together. I did notice that other camera wasn't on right then, so I'm trying to figure out why. In a second I just give up. Then I clamped these two pieces back together for no reason, but it worked out really well, so I recommend that you do the same thing. Just make things up as you go, and it'll work in the end, I think. So I like using tape because to me it's a lot easier to peel the tape off your forms than it is to clean glue off of them, even if your forms are plastic. And then just throw them on the ground. Nobody needs those anyway. There you go. There's all my blanks glued up. Right now I'm laying out the side pieces, trying to figure out where I'm going to put the ballast to help this thing float level, because I heard that's what you're supposed to do. Once the gun's all glued together, you should be able to take it underwater and it should float flat. So here you go. Don't worry about the eye protection. I'm definitely wearing it. And don't call me out in this video. Teak always bothers me when I'm cutting it, so I did go ahead and put that dust mask on right after I started cutting it. I don't know what it is about teak especially, but you should wear a dust mask anytime you're using the saw and sanding. So I got everything squared up, cut off the way I like it. You can look at my fat stomach there. It's pretty sweet. It's nice. And right here I'm just at a loss. I have no idea where I'm going to put these different ballasts to make this thing float flat. I'm just kind of guessing actually. So I just lay it out, look at it, and what I decided in the end is I'm just going to lay it out how I want and make it look cool. So I ordered a bunch of parts. I forgot where I ordered them from. This spear gun, because I worked on it in between other jobs, took me about 6 months to finish. You can see in the beginning I was wearing a sweater. By the time I got this thing, it's winter. It was winter here in Arizona when I started it. By the time I got it all done, it was warm enough. I got in the pool at my house to test it out. So there you go. There's the spear. I bought there's Brent. Hi, Brent. I bought the longest one I could buy because I had no idea. And we're just going to unpack the box. I didn't do a very good job of showing all the parts, but there's a whole bunch of them. You never think there's that many parts in a spear gun. I'll put a list on it in the description below.
I've been videoing the whole process.
So there's two kinds of spear guns. Some of them, the spears just rest on top of the gun and you loop the tether line over it to hold it down. The other ones use a captured track. After doing some reading, I decided I wanted to use the track, mostly because I've never spearfished and I didn't know if I'd get that loop right to get the spear held down on the gun like it's supposed to be. So here we're just setting up the router so I can router the T-groove in the top of that spear gun blank, and then we can use that to run the track in. I forgot where I bought these parts, but I gotta look it up and tell you. So they had sent me the bit that matches the track and everything. That way when I cut it, it was going to slide in perfect. This was my dream anyway, and it ended up working out really well. What I would recommend you do if you're doing this is cut your trigger pocket first. What I did was I cut the trigger pocket after I milled the track in, and so every time I ran that thing through the router, I'm just taking a test cut right there just to see if it's set to the right height. I know I'm going to cut the end off that gun anyway, otherwise I would have used a piece of scrap. But since I was cutting the end off, it was a little longer than I wanted. I just used the end to kind of set my router where I wanted it.
It's actually pretty cool the way it works. So basically,
So like I said, if we would have milled in if we would have cut the trigger pocket out first, we wouldn't have had to back this thing up the way we did. This is just a straight bit to get most of the material out, so I was able to lift it straight off. But when we go to cut the T-track, I had to back the whole piece out, which leaves a lot of room to make a mistake. I don't recommend doing it that way. Cut a hole in the end where you're going to have a hole. That way you can just lift the part off the router and save yourself a lot of problems. Just realized I made this part of the video too long, but I'm way too lazy to edit. Like I said, I had no idea what I was doing when I started this, so here I am setting up the router, making sure it's the right height, doing all of those things. And here we go, we're gonna cut. So right here is where I realized that what I should have done was cut that hole, wait for the router to stop, and we're going to pull it back off. Lucky for us, it ended up working out. We didn't make any mistakes, no bobbles, so that T-track went in there pretty well. There was a couple little tiny burrs in there I had to clean out with my knife. They came out. We're just sketching out the spot where the trigger mechanism goes here. Brent's giving me a hand because I couldn't hold it down and keep it square and trace it. So here I'm just going to go to town with a drill. A little bit later I'll get out some chisels. If I had this to all do over again, I would have built a jig for my router and I would have routered it out. That would have gone a lot better, a lot smoother. In the end, I think I drilled and chiseled on this thing for 2-3 hours on a Sunday, when I think I could have done the whole thing in about 10 minutes with a jig. Right now we're trying to figure out how this trigger mechanism works and how the catch works on it. So we did this for about 10 minutes. I recommend it. It's a good time. In the end, we probably could have done it for about 20 seconds. But why not? It was there. So I'll just go back over here and go back at it. Probably could have cut this part out of the video. You know what a drill looks like. But you know, you get to watch. Congratulations. So now we've got all this in, we're marking the trigger guard on the bottom side so we can make sure that's in the right spot. And then I'll go back to carving all that out as well. Back with the drill. Just cleaning up the corners and getting that all put in, and then we'll put the start on the bottom side with the trigger guard, clean that up, and it fit really nicely. Put the trigger in there, make sure it all fit together, and make sure you can pull it, move it, everything, all the wood was cleared out of the way. Drill some holes, screw it down. And then right here is I'm most proud of this right here. So that guard fits down in there a little deeper than I wanted. I wanted a nice smooth transition, so I had to cut this wood off. This is probably the best chisel work I've ever done in my entire life. Before this and after it, I've never had something come this clean before. So clearly I could use some practice. This one worked out pretty well. So we're just going to finish this up real quick and then do some sanding, get it nice and clean, get everything nice and smooth, put all the pieces back in it, and make sure everything works. Just sand it up. You guys don't really need to watch this next 10 seconds, something like that, but whatever. Look how handsome that stomach is right there. That extra chin. So here we are, just trying to figure out, make sure everything worked. Once you had it set in there, there was some little fine adjustment we had to make sure it lined up right. So when you slid the spear down the track, it released well. And in the end, I decided to only put one set of ballast on it toward the back where the trigger was. That's where we removed the most wood. So it made sense to me that that's where you would add the most wood back. And I ended up adding a lot more on here than I needed to. Had to cut most of it back off because when you go to wrap the tether line in, it has to ride along the top of the spear gun, and those ballasts were in the way. So, you know, I live and learn. In the end, you'll kind of see how it turns out. You ever watched anybody glue anything before? Here it is right here. Brent's going to help me out here. He's decided I'm moving too slow. So we'll get this all clamped together and let it dry, and then we'll go to town on the router. Put it on the router table, and this is when I figured out I had to cut the top off. of both those side wings there. So there it is, taking all the hardware out. Now we're going to start just cutting those things down to size. I don't really know what to say right here, so I'm just going to let you guys watch. So there's what it looks like from the side view. You can see how far down I had to cut those. The tether will go across the top of that and it loops around the trigger mechanism. Now we're just going to router a little around all the corners on the spear gun itself. Smooth it out so you don't have to carry this square block around. And I probably should have clamped that down and not had my hand on it, so don't do that. I have no idea what I'm marking here. Congratulations. You can also not know. Oh, I do know. Never mind. I'm marking the holes to put the bands through. So I'm recording this as I'm watching it. So it surprises me sometimes when things come up. There you go. This is going to be a 3-band spear gun. So you can fish for everything from, you know, goldfish to something at least as big as like trout. I don't know. I've never spearfished in my life. Still to this day, even after building the spear gun, I haven't spearfished. So sometime in the next year, I'll get out there and give it a whirl. I have no idea why I have all the hardware in it. I have the spear in the gun while I'm drilling these holes. Just rounding the corners now so it doesn't do any damage to my bands once I get them in. And then I lost the entire video of when I epoxied it. I just got some marine epoxy, held this spear gun up with a hanger, hung it from the garage door, and I just brushed the epoxy on. I took all the hardware out. And before that's what it looks like, sort of. That's before I epoxied it. This is after I epoxied it. And somehow you got to get this knot in that hole. They make a tool for it. I recommend buying the tool. I was too impatient, so right now I'm going to make a tool that looked like the one I saw in the picture on the internet. Also, my table's covered in junk and also paper, so I can't really weld on it. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to weld on this without ruining all the rest of the stuff on the table and also avoid cleaning the table off. Nobody wants to do that. It's important to note right here that I'm not a really good welder. Actually, I'm awful at it, but I know how a grinder works, so it ends up I was able to clean it up pretty well. So I get that all put together. I had to put a little pocket in the end to kind of hold the bead that's on that string. Yes, I know I should have been wearing goggles right here. You can tell me about it later in the comments. But I got that all cleaned up. Then I went ahead and took my glove off and touched it. It's hotter than you think. Don't do that. I wanted to sand it clean because when I shoved it inside that rubber hose, I didn't want it to cut the hose. I think we got a good picture of what this thing looks like when I'm all done. This is somewhere for the string to track down so the string didn't add to the bulk of this little tool. Like I said, buy one of these tools. That was a really good camera shot. You couldn't see it at all. So that's a better shot there. That's quality work right there. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the little bead, stick it on top of this tool, and just shove it in there. Everyone likes when you shove it in. I did sand these down quite a bit because I wanted a nice smooth tool sliding in that hole there. It's a pretty tight fit. Everybody likes that. And then just use some grease. I used that lithium grease in the back. I might have said that earlier in the video. I don't remember. It worked well though. I had to make a lot of adjustments to this little tool. If I was going to do this again, I would buy one. I don't even know what happened to that thing. I think I threw it away as soon as I was done with it. It made me so mad. But there you go. So in the end, I cut these bands the wrong length. So I got them made, I got them put in here, and when I tested this thing in my pool, I couldn't pull them back. So either I cut them the wrong length, or I'm a lot weaker than I should be at this point in my life. But I got them all together. Once you get those knots down in there, you do got to tie them off so they don't slip back out. So you just wrap some string around it. I'm sure there's a YouTube video about it because I watched one. That's how I learned to do it. When you're halfway done, go to the fridge and get snacks. That's super important. Otherwise, your day's not that fun. So after I got that first side done, the second side went together pretty easy. I ended up putting 2 bands on it, both of them the wrong length, so that made it even nicer. And I should have got a close-up view of this so you guys could see how to do it. But there's some other guy on YouTube that made a way better video about it. So you just tie the string around it, loop it back over, tie it again, pull it as tight as you can because you certainly don't want those things to slip out when you're, 3 inches from that blue whale you're going to spear and drag to shore. I don't think you're allowed to shoot blue whales with a spear gun. Please don't. I have no idea. I've never been spear gun fishing. There you go. Once you got them tight, just burn the ends with a lighter. That way they don't come unraveled. And make sure your whole workspace is as dirty as this one. I don't even know what we did with that big chunk of maple right there, but that's the cutoff of something. So now I'm going to tie the tether line to the spear. Before you come at me in the comments with how I crimped this tether line, I knew I was cutting it off when I put it on there. The only reason I tied it there is so that I could tie it off and test this thing in my pool. The tether line was way too long. So I just grabbed some pliers and put it on there. Ended up cutting it off and re-crimping it the right length after I figured out how I was going to wrap it on my spear gun. So there we are. We're in my kitchen. There's my spear gun. The tether line's not tied to the other end. There's the pool. It's dirty. I don't know where I am. There I am. Don't worry about how fat I am or how wide I am. This is the very beginning of summer. So right here's where I figured out that I did get it balanced right. It floats super nice. And there you go. There's its first shot.